There we go.
That's it, right?
We're online, Charles. There we go. Okay. We are all on.
Ooh.
Okay. 57. Oh, good. Everything came up this week. We had trouble with YouTube last week. Still don't know what the problem was. And there's nothing you can do to solve any of that kind of problem. Okay. I'll stop talking. Shabbat Shalom. Welcome to Agudath Israel Etz Ahayem Synagogue here in Montgomery, Alabama. So glad that you are joining us both in person and online. Before we get started, I just want to remind everyone, unless you need another reminder, that the High Holidays does indeed start Sunday night with Erev Rosh Hashanah. We are online. We are in person. We would love to see a sanctuary full. And we are so happy that Chazan Charles Barron is with us for the 38th year consecutively, including 2 years of the pandemic. And he will start us off with Yedid Nefesh. We are praying out of Sidor Lev Shalem. We start on page 10 with Yedid Nefesh.
Yedid Nefesh ורחמן משוך עבדיך אל רצונך. ירוץ עבדיך כמו החייל, ישתחווה מול עדרך. ירב לו ידידותיך מנופת צוף וכל טעם. הדור נאה זיו העולם, נפשי חולת אהבתך. אנא אלנה רפנה לה, בהרוד לה נועם סביבך. אז תתחזק ותתרפא, והייתה לך שמחת עולם. ותהיה אמונה רחמך וחוסנה הבן אהובך. כי זה כמה נחשפתי לראות בתפארת עוזך. חמדה ליבי וחוסנה ואל תתעלם. יגאלנה ופרוס חביבי עלי את סוכת שלומך. תאיר ארץ מכבודך, נגילה ונשמחה בו. מהר אהוב כי במועד, וכונני כימי עולם.
Yalla lai 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 lai, yalla lai 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 lai, yalla lai 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 lai, yalla lai 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 lai, yalla lai 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 lai, yalla lai 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 lai, yalla lai 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 lai, yalla lai 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 lai, yalla lai 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 lai, yalla lai 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 lai, yalla lai 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 lai. La 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 la.
Hi la 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la.
Page 11, Psalm 95.
לכו נרנה לאדוני, נריע לצור ישענו, נקמה פניו בתודה, בזמירות נריע לו, כי אל גדולות אדוני, ומלך גדולה כל אלוהים.
אשר בידם יכרע בתורפות תרים לו.
40 שנה כות בדור, ואמר רמתו אל לבבהם, בהם, זו ידעו דרכי, אשר נשבעתי ביפי, אם יבואון אל מנוחתי.
Page 13, Psalm 96.
שיר אדוני שיר חדש, שיר אדוני. ישמחו השמיים ותגל הארץ, ירעם הים ומלואו, יעלוז תדי וכל אשר בו, אז שרנו כל הצייר, לפני אדוני כי בא לשפוט הארץ, ישפוט תבל בצדק, וימים באמונתו.
Page 15, Psalm 97. Adonai melech togelat, yismurim rabim, anavacha v'sivavat tzedek mishpat, machon kisohon.
אוהבי אדוני שנורה, שומר נשות חסידיו, מיד רשעים יצילם. אור זרו על הצדיק, ולשלב שמחה, שמחו צדיקים באדוני, והודו לזכר קודשו.
Page 17, Psalm 98.
לפני אדוני כי בא לשפוט הארץ, ישפוט תבל בצדק, וימים במישרים.
Page 19, sorry.
אדוני אלוהינו אתה ניתם, אלוהי היית להם, ולוקם על עלילותם. רוממו אדוני אלוהינו, וישתחוו להר קודשו, כי קדוש אדוני אלוהינו.
Page 21, Psalm 29, we rise if you are able.
מזמור לדוד, הבו לאדוני בני אלים, הבו לאדוני כבוד ועוז, הבו לאדוני כבוד שמו, השתחוו לאדוני בהדרת קודש. כל על המים אל הכבוד יראים, אדוני עמים רבים. כל אדוני בכוח, כל אדוני בהדר, כל אדוני שובר אנסים, וישבר אדוני את הזה על בנון, ויקנן כמו עגל לבנון בסיריון, כמו בן רמים. כל אדוני חוצב להבות אש, כל אדוני יחים מדבר, יחיל אדוני מדבר קדש, כל אדוני יכולהו איילות. ויחשוף יערות ובהיכלו כולו אומר כבוד. אדוני למבול ישב, וישב אדוני מלך לעולם. אדוני עוז לעמו ייתן, אדוני יברך את עמו בשלום.
Page, you may be seated. Page 23, Lechadudi.
לך דודי לקרא קלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקרא קלה, פני שבת נקבלה. שמר זכור בדיבורך תשמיענו, אלא מיוחד אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד לשם ותפארת ולתהילה. לך דודי לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לקראת שבת לכו בניך, כי היא מקור הברכה יושמי קדם נסוך. סוף מעשה במחשבה תפילה.
לך דודי לקראת קהלה, פני שבת נקבלה.
מקדש מלך עיר מלוכה, קומי צאי מתוך אפיך, רק לך שבט בעמק הבכה, והוא יחמול עלייך חמלה.
לך דודי לקראת קהלה, פני שבת נקבלה.
יתנערי מעפר קומי, לבשי בדדי תפארתך עמי, על יד בן ישי בית הלחמי, קורבה אל נח שיגי עלה.
לך דודי לקראת קהלה, פני שבת נקבלה.
התעוררי, התעוררי, כי באורך קומי אורי, 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 שידברי כבוד אדוני עלייך נגלה. לך דודי
לקראת קהלה, פני שבת נקבלה.
לא תבושי ולא תגולמי, מה תשתוכחי ומה תהמי, בך יחסו עניי עמי, ונבנתה עיר עתילה.
לך דודי לקראת קהלה, פני שבת נקבלה.
והיו עם שיסה שוסייך, ורחקו כל מבעלייך, יסיס עלייך אלוהייך, כמסוס חתן על כלה.
לך דודי לקראת קהלה, פני שבת נקבלה.
ימין ושמאל תפרוצי ביד אדוני, תריצי על יד איש בן פרצי
ונשמחה ונגילה. לך דודי לקראת קהלה, פני שבת נקבלה. We rise as we turn to the last stanza on page 25, the last stanza of Lecha Dodi. As we face the entrance, we face towards the west to greet the Shabbat bride.
בואי ושלום עטרת בעלה, גם בשמחה ובצלתו אמונה עם סגולה. בואי חלה,
בואי חלה, לך דודי לקראת קהלה, פני שבת נקבלה. You may be seated. We continue Psalm 92 on page 27.
מזמור שיר ליום השבת,
טוב להודות לאדוני,
ולזמר לשמך עליון, לזמר לשמך עליון. להגיד בבוקר חסדך, אמונתך בלילות, עלי אסון ועלי נבל, עלי היגיון בכינור. מזמור שיר ליום השבת,
טוב להודות לאדוני,
ושמר לשמך עליון, וזמר לשמך עליון. בפועלך ויעשה ידיך רנן, מה גדלו מעשיך אדוני, מאוד ממקהו מחשבותיך. מזמור שיר ליום השבת, טוב להודות השם, ולזמר לשמך עליון, לזמר לשמך עליון. צדיקת המר יפרח, ירש בלבנון, בלבנון
Eloheinu,
Yafrichu Odinu Havon Beseva Deshenim Verana Nihim Yo Lehagin Ki Ashar Adonai Zori Velo Alatabo.
page 29, Psalm 93.
Edotecha nemo meyod levetcha nava kodesh. Edotecha nemo meyod levetcha nava kodesh. Adonai leyorech yamim.
Thank you very much, Cousin Charles. We can take a collective breath as we move from the joy of Kabbalat Shabbat to the serenity of Ma'ariv. Hearing these words right before the new year, beginning on Sunday with Erev Rosh Hashanah. I have served on 3 juries in my life. Something about being a software engineer that lawyers like to have you sit on a jury. I guess they think that we are logical and are thinking to a fault. With computers, you have to be logical to a fault because computers do exactly what you tell them to do. There is no such thing as a computer malfunction. The computer malfunctioned because it did exactly what you told it to do. It was you who malfunctioned. At least that's what I was always told. So to be a good software engineer, you have to think like a computer, not that fast, but that logically. Incidentally, the first computer bug was actually a bug that had come into contact with a vacuum tube from which the first computers were built and actually caused a short circuit. I remember one jury I sat on when I lived in Salt Lake City. It was a trial of someone accused of robbing a restaurant who claimed that it was not him that did it, despite the interesting evidence built up against him. I must say that the prosecutor could have done a more thorough investigation and really nailed his case, but he left a few things undone, and we were left with trying to determine guilt or innocence. I remember in the deliberations how some people just liked the defense lawyer and would have voted for conviction had he been the prosecutor. Okay, I put my logical self in the game and looked at everything objectively. By the way, it was hard for a logical person such as myself to ignore testimony from a friend whom the accused had confessed to after it was determined the prosecutor had failed to mention the witness beforehand, discrediting the witness entirely. Actually, before that point, I had already decided for myself, based on the evidence, by some basic logic, that he was indeed guilty. This just proved my conclusion. Someone had spotted a vehicle leaving the site at the time of the robbery and could describe the car in pretty good detail, but only got the last three numbers of the license plate. Being a pretty logical person, I surmised that the prosecutor had searched through the database of cars in the state for this make and model, and the last three digits reported this probably would have singled out this car on the spot. I did not need a database search for that possibility. That and a few other things before convinced me. The problem was I could not convince anyone else of my point of view. I argued for 5 hours, but no one would budge. I will tell you what happened in a little bit. But first, the relevance to this week's Torah portion. This week we read from Nitzavim. Moses is telling the Israelites that performing the mitzvot, the commandments or holy obligations, is not too hard, and there should be no excuse to not observe them. In chapter 30, verses 11 to 14, it says, "Surely this mitzvah, which I enjoin upon you this day, is not too baffling for you, nor is it beyond reach. It is not in the heavens that you should say, 'Who among us can go up to the heavens and get it for us and impart it to us, that we may observe it?' Neither is it beyond the sea that you should say, 'Who among us can cross to the other side of the sea and get it for us and impart it to us that we may observe it?' No, the thing is very close to you, in your mouth, in your heart, to observe it." The part of this verse that is interesting is the part that says, "It is not in the heavens." In Hebrew, this reads, "Lo bashamayim hi." This phrase is famous in the rabbinic literature, where it is taken wholly out of context. A very popular and oft-repeated story on this verse, so popular, in fact, that I'll repeat it now. Sorry. In the Babylonian Talmud, in tractate Baba Metzia, there is this rabbinic Agudath, a story. It is the tale of an oven that needed to be declared kosher. This oven had a new invention created by a certain man named Achnai. Achnai brought his new oven to the rabbinical court at the house of study for them to give his contraption their imprimatur and deem it appropriate for Jewish use. With the exception of Rabbi Eliezer, every sage at the house of study declared that the oven was unkosher. Rabbi Eliezer brought forward every imaginable argument to try and convince the other sages that the oven was kosher, but none of his colleagues was convinced. Rabbi Eliezer was getting frustrated, and he shouted at them, "If Achnai's oven is in fact kosher, as I say it is, then let this carob tree prove it." And the carob tree flew out of the ground and landed 100 cubits away. Unimpressed, the other sages retorted, "No proof can be brought from a carob tree." Again, Rabbi Eliezer implored them, "If Achnai's oven is kosher, then let the stream of water prove it." And the stream of water flowed backwards. "No proof can be brought from a stream of water," the rabbis rejoined. More frustrated than ever, Rabbi Eliezer cried out, "If the oven is kosher, as I say it is, Let the walls of this house of study prove it. And the walls began to fall inward. But Rabbi Joshua rebuked the collapsing walls, saying, when scholars are engaged in a disagreement over a point of Jewish law, what right do you have to interfere? And the walls did not fall in honor of Rabbi Joshua, nor did they resume their upright position in honor of Rabbi Eliezer. Again, Rabbi Eliezer said to the sages, if the law agrees with me regarding the fact that Achnai's oven is kosher, then let it be proved by heaven. And a heavenly voice cried out, why do you rabbis argue with Eliezer? He's always right in his interpretation of the law. But Rabbi Joshua arose and exclaimed to the sky, Lo bashamayim he, it is not in heaven. One must follow the majority. At that moment, the sages say, God laughed, saying, my children have defeated me. My children have defeated me. When all the arguments are exhausted and your point remains unproved, that is, the majority of the people in the argument say it remains unproved, then the right thing to do is to accept the majority opinion. How hard is that to do? Really hard. But it happens to be the Jewish thing to do. That jury trial was one of the hardest lessons that I had to learn in my young life at that time. That of accepting the majority over one's own reasoning that one trusts in and relies on. But when it comes to community and shalom bayit, peace in the home, there is one principle that rules over logic, and that is compassion. I would hope that as we enter this High Holy Day season, that we all learn that word, compassion, and apply it to everyone we meet, no matter how disagreeable they happen to be, and do the right thing, the adult thing, and the Jewish thing. V'ahavta l'reacha kamocha. Love your fellow being as yourself. Shabbat shalom. And what did I lose? Okay, I lost something. I'll let it go. Okay. We will now continue with Ma'ariv. We will continue on page 39a. Ask everyone to please rise if you are able for the Baruch Hu, the call to worship. Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai Barach Le'olam Avad. You may be seated. Baruch atah Adonai, our God, sovereign of time and space, whose word brings the evening dusk, whose wisdom opens the gates of dawn, whose understanding changes the day's division, whose will sets the succession of seasons and arranges the stars in their places in the sky, who creates day and night, who rolls light before darkness and darkness from light, who makes day pass into night, who distinguishes day from night. Adonai Tzevaot is your name, living and ever-present God. May your rule be with us forever and ever. Baruch atah Adonai, who brings each evening's dusk. U'mahavir yom u'mevi laila, mavdio ben yom u'ven laila, Adonai Tzevaot shemo. El chai v'kayam tamid miloch aleinu lamvoed, Baruch atah Adonai. Hamariv Aravim, page 40. Ahavat olam beit Yisrael amchavta, Torah u'mitzvot בחוקים המשפטים אותנו לימדת. על כן אדוני אלוהינו בשכבנו וקומנו נשיח בחוקיך ונשמח בדברי תורתך ובמצוותיך לעולם ועד, כי הם חיינו ואורך ימינו, ובהם מנהגה יומם ולילה. ואהבתך תשים ממנו לעולמים, ברוך אתה אדוני אוהב עמו ישראל. שמע ישראל, אדוני אלוהינו, אדוני אחד. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך. והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשכבך וקומך, וקשרתם להיות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך. והיה אם שמוע תשמעו מצותי אשר אנוכי מצוותכם היום לאהוב את אדוני אלוהיכם לעובדו. הירכם והיו לטוטפות בין עיניכם. למען ירבה משמרת. ויאמר אדוני משה לאמור דבר אל בני ישראל ואמרת להם ויעשו להם ציצית על כנפי בגדיהם לדורתם ונתנו על ציצית הכנף פתיל תכלת. והיה לכם לציצית וראיתם אותו וזכרתם את כל מצוות אדוני ועשיתם אותם. ולא תטו באחרי לבבכם ואחרי עיניכם אשר אתם זונים אחריהם, למען תסגרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם אמת. Page 43A. ואמונה כזאת וקיים. המעביר בניו בין גזרי ים סוף את חוטביהם ואת צונאיהם ביתם אותי בה וראו בניו גבורתו שיבחו והודו לשמו ומלכותו ברצון קיבלו עליהם. משה ובני ישראל לחנו שירה בשמחה רבה ויאמרו כולם מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדור בקודש. נוראתי לא תוסף אלה מלכותך ובניך. בוקע ים לפני משה זה אלינו ויאמרו אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. ונאמר כי יפדה אדוני את יעקב Ugalot me'az chazak mimenu, Baruch atah Adonai, Ga'al Yisrael, page 45. Ashkiveinu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom ve'hamideinu malkeinu lechayim ufaros aleinu sukat shalomecha v'tagnenu b'yetza tova milfanecha v'hoshienu leman shemecha. Ushmor tzeiteinu vein lachem ushel mi'ata v'yadalam ufros aleinu sukat shlomecha Baruch atah Adonai haporet sukat shalom aleinu v'yal kol amo Yisrael v'yal Yerushalayim. We rise, if you're able, page 46. V'shamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledoratam barit olam. V'shamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledoratam barit olam. Beini uvein b'nei Yisrael oti le'olam, oti le'olam, oti le'olam. V'shamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledoratam barit olam. Ki sheshet yamim asa Adonai et ha-shamayim v'et ha'aretz v'shamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledoratam barit olam. Vayom hashvi shavat vayinafash shavat vayinafash shavat vayinafash v'shamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledoratam barit olam. We rise for the silent Amidah for Friday night, pages 47 through 52. As we say this, we approach God for a private conversation and we daven this Amidah. Think about those in your life that you have lost contact with in this past year. Think about those broken relationships that need to be repaired. Talk with God about how you are going to make a start in repairing those relationships. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Ki ata Melech Adon lechol Shalom. Ki ata Melech Adon lechol Shalom. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. V'to be'enecha levarech et Amecha Yisrael b'chol et u'v'chol sha'a b'shlomecha. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam. And we will continue page 53. Vayechulu hashamayim ve'haaretz v'chol tzevam. Vayechal Elohim bayom hashvi melach tov asher asa. Vayishbot bayom hashvi mikol melachto asher asa. Vayivarech Elohim et yom hashevi vayikadesh oto kivo shavat mikol melachto kivo shavat mikol melachto asher bara Elohim la'asot. You may be seated. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei Avotenu Elohei Avraham Elohei Yitzchak v'Elohei Yaakov Ho'ei El Gadol Gibor V'Hanora El Elyon Konei Shamayim Va'aretz Magen Avot Bidvaro Mechaye Metim B'Mamaro Ha'el HaKadosh She'ein Kamohu Hameniach Li'amo B'Yom Shabbat Kodsho Kivam Ratza L'Haniach Lahem Kivam Ratza L'Haniach Lahem Lefanav Navod B'Yirav V'Fachad V'Nodeh Lishmo B'Chol Yom Tamid Me'ena B'Rachot El Laodot Adon Hashalom Mekadesh HaShabbat Umvarech Shavi Umeniach Bikdusha Leam Bikdush Neoneg Zecher Lemase Vereshit Eloheinu v'Elohei Avotenu Ritzei v'menuchatenu Kadishenu b'mitzvotecha V'tein chelkenu b'toratecha Sabeinu mituvecha V'samchenu b'shuatecha V'tahel libein le'avdacha b'emet V'hanchilenu Adonai Eloheinu B'ahava u'v'ratzon Shabbat kodeshecha V'yanuchu vo Yisrael Mikadeshei shemecha Baruch ata Adonai Mikadesh HaShabbat. And we rise, page 56, as the ark is opened for Elena. עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא, שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסד הארץ, ומושב יקרא בשמיים ממעל, ושכינתו זו בגבי מרומים. הוא אלוהינו אין עוד, אמת מלכנו ובזולתו, ככתוב בתורתו, וידעת היום, והשבות אל לבבך, כי אדוני הוא אלוהים בשמיים ממעל, ועל הארץ מתחת, אין עוד. על כן נקווה לך אדוני אלוהינו לרפא בטבך תוזך, הגלו לי מן הארץ, האלילים קראתם, ותקד עולם במלכות שדי, וכל בני בשר יקראו בשמך, והבנוני לך כריש הארץ יכירו וידעו כל יושבי תבל, כי לך תכרע כל פרק תשבע כל לשון, לפניך אדוני אלוהינו יכרו ליפולו, לכבוד שמך יקרבתנו, וקבלו כולם את עול מלכותך, ותמלוך עליהם מהר למועד, כי המלכות שלך היא עולמי, עד תמלוך בכבוד, ככתוב בתורתך, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד, ונאמר בי אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד. You may be seated. Say that out loud. Come on, I get to have a little fun too. This week, we will observe yard sites for Lulton Fretwell, Nathan Wasserman, Bessie Friedlander, Herbert Weisberger, Jack Wool, Louis Goodman, Leon Smith, Morris Ralph Hannon, Rabbi Yehuda Merenstein, Regina Arrighetti, Saul Goodman, Les Weinstein, and Nick Gross. Those observing yard site and those who mourn, please rise, page 58, and join me with the Kaddish tome, the Mourner's Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei rabba, v'yalma divrach yirutei, v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayichon v'yamechon, v'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael, ba'agala v'zman kariv imaru amen, Yehei shmei rabba mevarach le'olam olmei maya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal shmei d'kudisha barichu, le'elam min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbachata v'nechamata, da'amiran b'yoma v'imaru amen, Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imaru amen. Oseh shalom b'mermav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imaru amen. You may be seated. We will add Psalm 27 for the season of repentance, page 59. לדוד אדוני וישמימי עירה, אדוני מעוז חיה ממי יפחד, בקרוב עלי מרעים לאכול את בשרי, צרי ואויבי לי, המה כשלו ונפלו. Luhu lehem antilot betuv Adonai bechetz chayim, kaveh el Adonai chazak v'yametz libecha, v'kaveh el Adonai. Shabbat Shalom. I'm glad you all have joined us, our family, our congregation, for joining us for Kabbalat Shabbat. I'm so grateful to each and every one of you for supporting us before, during, and after the pandemic. I just want to let everyone know that our synagogue is indeed open. If you would like to join us on Friday night and Saturday morning, you may do so. If we're in a large sanctuary, you can practice social distancing. You can wear a mask, whatever you need to do to feel safe, and you should feel safe. Okay? Wherever you are, you should feel safe. That's the most important thing. I can attest to not wanting anyone to come down with COVID. I am probably going to get the fifth vaccine sometime after Rosh Hashanah, and I encourage everyone. Of course, I also got the flu shot as well, and I would encourage everyone to do both. We will be back tomorrow morning for Shabbat services at 9:30 a.m. And beginning this Sunday night, we have the high holiday season beginning with Erev Rosh Hashanah services at 6 p.m. In your weekly bulletin is our full schedule for the high holiday season, again, beginning this Sunday night, which goes through October 18th with Simchat Torah. We are so blessed and grateful that we have a talented chazan that helps us reach the heights of heaven with our voices. And we're just so thankful that Chazan Charles Barron is with us, believe it or not, for his 38th year. And he's only 37, so I can't figure that out. I want to let everybody know that all of our services will not only be in person, but they will be online as they have been for the past 2 years during the pandemic. We will continue to offer these services online to those in and out of our community. We have reached at least 3 countries now, and we've reached almost every part of the United States, I'm happy to say. And if you come across anyone that has not found an online community or is needing community, please invite them to join us. The only exception to, and all services will be on our website, on YouTube Live and Facebook Live. The only exception to any service that we have is during the break on Yom Kippur. Rabbi Steve Silberman and Rabbi Steve Silberman is in Avas Chesed in Mobile. He and I will be doing a healing service during the break via Zoom at 4 p.m. And we call that Zoomin' between Montgomery and Mobile. Sorry, rabbis can't be very creative in naming things. Some of the highlights that we have, some of the services, especially for when we get to Sukkot, will come from my sukkah at our home. And on October 14th, we have a very, very special service planned for Pray in Pink, Shabbat. We have a wonderful, wonderful speaker lined up for that particular Shabbat. where we always have a survivor of breast cancer among us or someone who can talk about. And as you know, we've had many, many wonderful speakers over the years. This year will not be any less spectacular. I'm not going to spoil any of that. You'll just have to wait and get the ad in that we'll be sending out soon. So please plan on joining us Friday night, October 14th. We will be in our shul's sukkah in the courtyard. This will be the first year that we're actually in the courtyard between the religious school building and Federation. The sukkah it's going to be wonderful. I had our IT guy come out and wire us up for internet in the courtyard, so we will be able to broadcast services out there as well. Don't forget to sign up for Breakfast on Yom Kippur. I know this is all out of order, right? On October 5th at 7 after the shofar at 7:07, we will have Breakfast, and the details are somewhere. I'm not sure where the details are. Let me see. Yeah, it's in your weekly bulletin. It says it right here. That we're charging $10 and reservations are needed by September 30th. And don't forget Simchat Torah on October 17th. We will have our annual cabbage dinner, which arguably is the best dinner of the entire year. And you do not want to miss that. Cantor Neil Schwartz, I'm forgetting names. Neil Schwartz will be with us for Shmini Atzeret and Simchat Torah. So we will have wonderful, wonderful music for the end of the high holiday season. With that, I'm going to stop talking. I know some of you have probably nodded off by now. It's okay. Wake up. Time to end services. Page 211. Adon olam asher malach b'terem kol yitzir nivra li'et nasa v'chefso kol azay melech shemo nikra v'yacharei kichlot hakol levado yimloch nora v'hu haya v'hu hoveh v'hu yiyeh b'tifara v'hu yiyeh b'tifara v'hu echad v'yein sheni laham shelo lehachbira b'li reshit b'li tachlit v'lo ha'oz v'hamisra v'hu eli v'chai go'ali v'tzor chevli b'yetzara v'hu nisi umanosli minat kosi b'yom mekra b'yado avkid ruchi b'yet ishan v'yaira v'maruchi geviyati Adonai li v'lo ira Shabbat shalom l'shana tova tikatevu. May you have a happy and a healthy new year, and may you all be written in the book of life.